Have you ever found yourself wondering, is happiness supposed to fade as I get older? It's a question I once asked myself, especially on those mornings when the house felt just a little too quiet, and the faces in the mirror seemed to belong to someone I barely recognized. It's a delicate truth that so many of us carry deep inside. As the years go by, friendships change, energy dips, and sometimes, it feels like joy is slipping further from reach. If I'm being honest, I used to believe the best days might already be behind me, and maybe you felt that, too. But here's the gentle twist in my story. I realized, almost by accident, that happiness doesn't disappear with age, it simply takes on a new shape. One morning, after laughing at myself for misplacing my glasses for the third time that week, I found comfort in the simple, familiar rituals I'd overlooked for years. There was relief in knowing I didn't need to chase after big changes or pretend to be someone I wasn't. Instead, small, kind habits became my lifeline. Things so easy and gentle that anyone could do them. What if I told you there are 12 surprisingly simple secrets that happy women over 70 quietly rely on every single day? Would you be curious to discover which little shifts can make you feel lighter, brighter, and more at peace? I'd love for you to share what brings you joy, too, because you truly deserve to live your happiest years. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. Now, let's begin. 1. They start the day with a morning ritual. There's a quiet power in how you greet the day. I never used to think much about mornings. After all, wasn't it enough just to get up, shuffle to the kitchen, and let the day happen however it would? That was me for decades. Most mornings would start in a haze, with the TV humming in the background and my mind drifting from one worry to another, already feeling behind before I'd even had my first cup of tea. Looking back, I realize how much of my life I spent letting mornings slip by without truly seeing them. It took reaching my 70s, with the house quieter and the phone ringing less, to notice the aching emptiness that sometimes crept in as soon as I opened my eyes. There were mornings when the weight of memories pressed heavily on my chest, the loss of loved ones feeling sharper in those first, silent moments. But one morning, as sunlight streamed through the blinds, I found myself pausing. Instead of reaching for the remote or my phone, I just sat on the edge of my bed, breathing in the newness of the day. For a moment, I let gratitude settle in. A soft, simple thank you whispered to the world for another chance, another sunrise. That tiny pause changed everything. Over time, I began crafting my morning ritual. Not some grand, complicated routine you see in magazines, but a gentle invitation to meet the day with intention and softness. I open the blinds, letting golden light fill the room, and stretch my arms as far as they'll go, feeling each muscle awaken. Sometimes I light a candle, just one, letting its gentle glow remind me that even in life's grayest seasons, there's always warmth to be found. And before I do anything else, I take a few moments to pray, to breathe, to simply exist before the rush of the world tries to sweep me up. It's funny how something so small can have such a big effect. In the mornings I take time for this ritual, my worries feel lighter, and the aches in my bones somehow seem less sharp. The day doesn't feel like something I have to conquer, but rather a gift I get to unwrap, one breath at a time. If you think you're too old to change your mornings, let me tell you, you're never too old to treat yourself with a little more kindness. The best part? A morning ritual is yours alone. It can be as simple as sipping tea by the window, listening to the birds, or jotting down 3 things you hope for in the day ahead. There's no right or wrong way to greet the morning, only the way that feels right for you. Some days, you might wake up heavy-hearted or slow. That's okay. Just start with a small gesture, a stretch, a prayer, a deep breath. Each morning offers a new beginning, a chance to choose peace over panic, gratitude over grumbling. With every sunrise, you remind yourself that you're still here, still capable of joy and new habits. I promise you, these quiet minutes you carve out for yourself at dawn aren't selfish. They're sacred. They set the tone for everything that follows. The world can wait. Your spirit comes first. And you might be surprised by how much brighter life feels, simply by starting the day on your gentle terms. 2. They get fresh air daily. There's something almost magical about the way fresh air can change your entire outlook on a day, no matter how old you are. For so many years, I underestimated it, thinking that stepping outside was just for gardeners or people with big, active families. But after retirement, when the days started to blend and my calendar emptied, I began to notice how the walls of my home sometimes felt like they were closing in. Even the most comfortable armchair loses its charm when you never leave its embrace. I remember one winter morning when I felt especially restless. The house was warm, but my spirit felt stuffy, weighed down by the sameness of it all. Almost on a whim, I wrapped myself in a cozy scarf, slipped my feet into a pair of old sneakers, and shuffled out to the porch. The air was brisk, nipping at my cheeks, but instantly I felt a wave of energy. Something simple and honest, like the world itself was gently urging me to wake up and pay attention. The birds were chattering in the neighbor's oak tree, the breeze stirred the wind chimes, and I realized how much I'd missed these small, ordinary miracles. Now, I make it a habit to get outside, even if just for a few minutes each day. Sometimes it's as easy as standing by the open window, letting the morning breeze sweep over my face while I sip my coffee. On other days, I'll wander slowly through my little garden, greeting the flowers like old friends, or I'll walk up and down the sidewalk, waving to neighbors as I go. It doesn't take a grand adventure or perfect weather. Just stepping out, breathing deeply, and allowing the sun, the rain, or even the chilly air to touch my skin is enough to remind me that I'm still a part of this big, beautiful world. It's not only about physical health, though science is clear that a little sunlight boosts vitamin D, lowers blood pressure, and even lifts your mood by raising your serotonin levels. But for me, it's about something deeper: connection. There's a sense of belonging that comes from being under the open sky, hearing the rustle of leaves, and feeling the earth steady beneath your feet. Even if your legs aren't as strong as they once were, or you have to lean on a cane, that first breath of fresh air in the morning can spark a feeling of hope you might not have realized you needed. On days when you feel too tired or the weather seems unkind, you can still bring the outside in. Open the window, sit near a patch of sun, or keep a vase of wildflowers by your chair. The key is not to let the world shrink to four walls and a television screen. There's so much life and comfort just beyond your doorstep, waiting for you to notice. So, permit yourself to step outside, even if only for a moment. Let the world greet you, remind you of your place in it, and breathe in deeply. You'll find that, with every lungful of fresh air, the worries grow a little smaller, and the day feels a little more possible. And maybe, just maybe, you'll come back inside with a smile you didn't know you were missing. 3. They stay curious and learn something new. There's a common myth that curiosity fades with age, that once you reach a certain number, life's questions slow down and the hunger for discovery softens into silence. But I've found that the happiest women I know, those over 70, with a twinkle in their eyes and a spring still in their step, are often the most curious people in the room. They remind me, and everyone around them, that you're never too old to ask why, or how, or what if. My journey back to curiosity was both unexpected and delightful. In my working years, learning felt like a chore, something I did to keep up or get ahead. But after retiring, I suddenly had time to let my mind wander. At first, it was just small things, reading the back of a cereal box, wondering about a bird song, or trying to remember who painted that old landscape in my hallway. One afternoon, my granddaughter plopped down next to me, iPad in hand, and asked if I wanted to learn how to video call. I laughed. Technology and I have never exactly been friends, but something in her eyes made me say yes. That yes was the beginning of a new adventure. Soon, I was not just video calling, but searching for recipes online, watching travel documentaries, and even joining a virtual book club with women from as far away as California and Maine. Every new skill made my world feel a little bigger, a little brighter. There's a special satisfaction in conquering something new, even if it's just figuring out how to unmute yourself on Zoom. Curiosity doesn't have to mean signing up for college courses or memorizing poetry, though you certainly can, if it calls to you. Sometimes it's as simple as asking your neighbor about her tomato plants, listening to a podcast about the Civil War, or letting yourself wonder what makes the stars look the way they do. Some of the best days I've had in my 70s have started with a simple question, I wonder. It opens doors you didn't know were there. Science tells us that challenging your mind, whether by learning a new card game, practicing a few words in Spanish, or even just reading something outside your comfort zone, can keep the brain sharper, slow memory loss, and boost your mood. But beyond the science, there's the pure joy of discovery. When you let yourself stay curious, life keeps offering you little gifts. A laugh over a new joke, a story you'd never heard, or the pride of mastering something for the very first time. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. If you're not sure where to start, just listen to your quiet questions. What have you always wondered about? What skill did you set aside years ago? Maybe it's time to dust off that old piano, ask your grandchildren to teach you their favorite game, or pick up a library book on a subject you know nothing about. The world is still so full of things to explore, and you are not done learning. Let curiosity be your daily companion. It doesn't just keep your mind young, it keeps your heart open, too. Every day offers something new to wonder about if only you're willing to say yes to the next question. And in that spirit, life never loses its sparkle. 4. They dress with intention. There's a quiet kind of dignity in getting dressed with intention, a ritual so small that it's easy to overlook, especially in a world that often seems to rush past the details of everyday life. I'll admit, after I retired and the last of my children moved away, there were mornings when it felt easier to stay in pajamas until noon. Why bother with buttons or earrings when no one would be stopping by? For a while, I believed comfort meant simply not caring. But then I started to notice how those pajama days slowly dulled my spirit. It wasn't the softness of the old robe or the familiar feel of worn-out slippers that bothered me. It was the way I began to fade into the background of my own life, shrinking inside clothes that whispered, "You're not going anywhere special today." One rainy morning, as I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror, hair was undone, old t-shirt stretched to the collar, I realized I missed the small excitement of choosing an outfit, the way a favorite scarf could brighten even the grayest of days. So, I made a promise to myself. I would get dressed with intention every single morning, not for anyone else, but for me. Now, each day begins with a gentle question, how do I want to feel today? Sometimes it's cozy and soft, a thick cardigan and warm socks. Other times, it's bold and bright. My floral blouse and those earrings that catch the sun just right. On Sundays, I still reach for my pearls, a quiet nod to the woman I've always wanted to be, whether or not I step foot outside the door. There's something truly powerful about reclaiming this simple choice. Dressing with intention isn't about impressing neighbors or keeping up with the latest trends. It's about honoring your presence in the world. When you choose colors that lift your mood or a necklace that once belonged to your mother, you're telling yourself, and the universe, that this day matters, that you matter. Studies even show that the clothes we wear can shift our confidence, change our posture, and gently lift our spirits. There's a real psychology behind it. Enclothed cognition, they call it. I call it self-respect. And it's not about being flawless or perfectly put together. It's about choosing every morning to start fresh, to give yourself the same care and attention you'd give to a guest or a loved one. Now, on the rare mornings I do feel low, I reach for color. A bright scarf, a dash of lipstick, or even just a cheery pair of socks can do wonders. The truth is, you don't need a closet full of fancy clothes. You only need a few things that make you feel comfortable, confident, and uniquely you. So tomorrow, as you stand before your closet, take a moment. What would make you feel alive, beautiful, or at peace? Put that on. Let your clothing be a gentle celebration of the day ahead, a private act of self-love and intention. And notice, as you move through the hours, how much lighter your heart feels when you show up for yourself, first and always. 5. They limit complaining. It's a quiet shift that happens with age, this awareness of how much our words shape the color of our days. I never used to think much about complaining. It seemed like a perfectly natural way to connect, to fill the silence, to let off a little steam. When friends called, we'd start with a litany of aches and annoyances. A sore knee, the price of groceries, the neighbor's noisy dog. It became a habit, almost a script we'd unconsciously read from. After all, wasn't it our right, after a long life of ups and downs, to vent a little? But over time, I noticed something unsettling. The more I focused on what was wrong, the bigger those things seemed to grow. My world began to shrink to the size of my complaints. I'd wake up with a heaviness in my chest, almost expecting something else to go wrong just so I'd have something new to talk about. The joy in everyday moments. Morning sunlight, a good cup of coffee, even the sound of a bird outside, started to fade behind a haze of dissatisfaction. The turning point came during an ordinary phone call. I was halfway through my usual list of grievances when my dear friend Martha, who'd always been gentle with me, softly interrupted. "Do you remember when you used to tell me stories about your garden? I miss hearing you talk about those things." Her words struck me with a tenderness that made me pause. I realized I'd let complaining become a habit that was pushing joy out of my life, and perhaps hers too. From that moment, I decided to try something new. Whenever I felt the urge to complain, I paused and asked myself, is this helping me feel better, or is it keeping me stuck? It was harder than I thought. Negativity has a sneaky way of feeling familiar, almost comfortable. But with a little practice, I learned to shift the conversation, even if just slightly. Instead of leading with my troubles, I'd share a small victory, a rosebud blooming, a neighbor waving hello, the memory of a family dinner. This isn't about pretending that hard things don't exist. Life brings its fair share of pain, especially as the years go by. But what separates the content from the bitter is where we let our attention settle. Gratitude, I've found, shrinks the shadow of problems. It doesn't erase them, but it helps me remember there's still so much good left to notice. Now, I make space every day for gratitude, even if it's just a quiet acknowledgement to myself. Sometimes I write down 3 things I'm thankful for. Sometimes I simply speak them aloud while making my bed. The change is real. My days feel lighter, and conversations with friends feel warmer and more hopeful. The world is still imperfect, but it no longer feels quite so heavy. So if you catch yourself about to complain, pause. Is there a story, a kindness, or a small delight you could share instead? Let your words become a source of comfort and hope, not just for others, but for yourself. It's a gentle, powerful way to invite more light into your life, one conversation at a time. 6. They move their body. There's a certain wisdom that settles into your bones with age, and yet, those same bones can grow stubborn, slow, or sore. I spent years thinking that exercise was for other people. Young folks in leggings, athletes in commercials, or retirees who filled their golden years with marathon races and yoga retreats. I wasn't one of them. I'd look down at my hands, the knuckles a little stiffer each morning, and convince myself that movement was simply a memory. My body had done enough. Hadn't it earned a rest? But still, on the mornings when I forced myself to walk out to the mailbox or sway to a favorite song in the kitchen, something shifted. The aches didn't vanish, but my heart felt lighter and my mind clearer. One morning, I watched a neighbor, well into her 80s, doing slow stretches on her porch. Her movements weren't fast or fancy, but they were steady and graceful in their way. I gathered my courage and asked her secret. She smiled and said, "Sweetheart, I just move what I can, as much as I can, every day. It's how I say thank you to this body for carrying me this far." That stayed with me. I realized that movement doesn't have to look like exercise videos or miles on a treadmill. It can be gentle, a walk around the garden, swinging your arms while waiting for the kettle to boil, or even stretching your legs from your favorite chair. The happiest women I know don't chase after youth or try to outpace the calendar. They move because it keeps them connected to the world, to themselves, and to the possibilities that each new day brings. Science tells us that daily movement helps ease joint pain, improves balance, and lifts the fog that sometimes settles over our thoughts. It even guards our independence, allowing us to keep doing the things we love for as long as possible. But beyond all that, movement is a celebration, a way of saying, I'm still here, still able to dance with the day. I started small. On stiff mornings, I'd circle my ankles and wrists before getting out of bed. I made it a habit to walk to the end of the street and back, waving at neighbors and letting the sunshine warm my face. Sometimes, when no one was looking, I'd put on an old favorite record and dance in the living room, just for the joy of it. Every bit counted, and every step, every stretch, felt like a gift I was giving to myself. Some days are harder than others. There are times when fatigue or pain slows down, but I've learned not to let that become an excuse for stopping altogether. Even gentle, mindful movement is enough to remind my body and spirit that I'm alive, resilient, and still capable of change. So, whether it's 10 minutes of stretching, a stroll through the park, or a simple march in place, choose a movement that feels good to you. Let it be an act of kindness, a daily thank you to the only body you'll ever have. Trust me, when you move your body, even in the smallest of ways, you invite more energy, joy, and hope into every day you're given. 7. They connect with others on a daily basis. There's a certain kind of quiet that fills a house when the children are grown and the old routines have faded into memory. Sometimes, that quiet is peaceful, a gentle backdrop for your morning coffee or the perfect companion to a good book. But other times, it can press in around you, carrying with it the weight of loneliness. I know that ache well. There were days when I would sit by the window, watching the world go by, longing for a voice on the other end of the line or a knock at the door. What I've learned over the years is that happiness isn't just found in solitude or personal achievements. It's rooted in connection. The happiest women I know make it a point to reach out, nurture old friendships, and even build new ones, no matter their age. Connection doesn't have to mean big parties or bustling social calendars. Sometimes, it's a simple good morning to the mail carrier, a brief chat with a neighbor as you water the flowers, or a text message to a granddaughter just to let her know she's loved. I remember the first time I joined a community group after retiring. I was nervous, convinced I wouldn't fit in. But as I sat in that circle of women, sharing stories and laughter over cups of tea, I realized how much I'd missed the comfort of shared experience. Each story echoed something inside me, and each laugh loosened a bit of the tightness I'd carried in my chest. I left that first meeting feeling lighter, grateful, and more alive. Sometimes, connection is about reaching out even when you don't feel like it. On tough days, when sadness threatens to pull me under, I send a voice note to my old friend Martha. We've created a ritual, just a few words in the morning, sometimes a joke, sometimes a prayer. Even on days when words are hard to find, just hearing her voice reminds me I'm not alone. Science tells us that staying socially engaged keeps our minds sharp and our hearts healthy, lowering the risk of depression and even certain illnesses. But beyond the research, there's the simple human truth. We're made for each other. Sharing a story, a meal, or even a quiet moment can transform an ordinary day into something meaningful. It's easy to let connections slip away, especially if your circle has grown smaller or life has thrown up obstacles. But every effort counts. If leaving the house is hard, try writing a letter, joining an online group, or calling a loved one. If you're shy, start with a smile or a wave. It's not the number of friends you have that matters, but the quality of your connections. The feeling that you matter to someone and that someone matters to you. So, if you find yourself feeling lonely, take a small step. Reach out. Let someone into your world, even if just for a moment. Because every time you do, you not only brighten your day, but you remind yourself that you're part of a tapestry of lives, each thread important, each story worth sharing. Connection is the gentle heartbeat that carries us through every stage of life. 8. They eat intentionally. Somewhere along the winding path of aging, I realized that food is far more than fuel. It's a daily ritual, a quiet act of self-care, and sometimes a deeply emotional comfort. In my younger years, I would rush through meals, grabbing toast on the run or eating dinner with one eye on the evening news. Eating was something to check off the list, and I rarely paused to consider how it made me feel. But time has a way of teaching you to slow down, and eventually, my body made it clear, every bite matters. It wasn't a dramatic health scare that woke me up, but a slow, persistent message, a little more indigestion here, a sluggish day there, and a doctor gently reminding me that the years ahead would be shaped by the choices I made now. At first, the idea of eating intentionally sounded intimidating. Did I have to follow strict rules? Give up all my favorite foods? But what I've learned, through trial and gentle error, is that intentional eating isn't about denying yourself pleasure or obsessing over every calorie. It's about paying attention, honoring your body's needs, and choosing nourishment over habit. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. These days, I start each meal with a small moment of gratitude. Sometimes I simply pause and breathe in the aroma of what's on my plate, letting my senses wake up to the colors, textures, and flavors. I've begun filling my plate with more fresh vegetables, roasted sweet potatoes, crisp greens, and ripe tomatoes that taste like summer. I savor lean proteins, and I've learned to enjoy healthy fats like avocado and a drizzle of olive oil. I still indulge in a little chocolate or homemade pie now and then, but now, it's a treat to be truly enjoyed, not a mindless snack grabbed in passing. Mindful eating also means tuning in to how food makes me feel. If something leaves me heavy or tired, I make a gentle note and try to choose differently next time. I drink a glass of water before my meal, and I put my fork down between bites, letting myself truly taste and enjoy what I'm eating. There is no rush, just this moment, this meal, and this body that has carried me so far. The benefits are subtle but powerful. I have more energy, my mood is steadier, and even my sleep has improved. I no longer feel out of control around food. Instead, I feel like a caring partner to myself, making decisions with kindness and respect. It's a way of saying, you matter. You deserve to feel good. Intentional eating isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about choosing to nourish yourself, celebrate the foods that support your health and bring you joy, and let go of guilt or fear around eating. Every meal is an opportunity to care for yourself, to listen to what your body needs, and to savor the simple pleasures of being alive. So next time you sit down to eat, take a breath, look at your plate, and ask, how can I nourish myself today? At that moment, you give yourself a gift greater than any diet or rulebook could offer. A deep, lasting kindness that flavors every bite. 9. They nourish their spirit. With all the talk about healthy habits and self-care, there's one quiet truth I wish I'd learned sooner. Our spirits need nourishment just as much as our bodies do. In the rush of daily living, it's easy to focus on what we can see and measure. Our weight, our steps, our cholesterol numbers. But I've come to realize that happiness in these later years is as much about caring for the soul as it is for the body. For a long time, I ignored this. I filled my days with chores and busy work, thinking productivity alone would keep the sadness away. But when the world slowed down, after retirement, after my children grew up and the house emptied, I found myself feeling restless in ways that food and activity couldn't soothe. It was like a hunger I couldn't name. I tried filling the silence with television or scrolling through old photo albums, but what I needed was a different kind of sustenance. I found it first in small moments, sitting quietly with a cup of tea before the sun was fully up, letting my thoughts drift like clouds across the morning sky. On some days, it was a prayer whispered while standing by the window. On others, it was losing myself in a chapter of an uplifting book, or listening to gentle music that stirred old memories and softened new worries. Some friends found their spirit's food in creative work, painting, knitting, even tending to houseplants, and watching new life grow under their care. There is no one right way to nourish your spirit. What matters is making space for the things that help you feel at peace, connected, and alive. Some women I know meditate, while others journal about their hopes and fears. A few spend time volunteering, giving their love and wisdom to others, and finding joy in the act of giving back. Nature, too, has a way of restoring what the world takes out of us. Even sitting on the porch, watching the play of sunlight through the trees, I felt something inside me relax. A quiet reminder that I am part of something larger and more enduring. As I've made spirit nourishment a daily habit, I've noticed a gentle shift. My days feel richer, not because the circumstances have changed, but because my heart is lighter. When I nurture my spirit, I find it easier to cope with life's inevitable storms, to forgive myself and others, to notice small miracles, like the laughter of a grandchild or the sudden scent of rain on the pavement. I am more present, more grateful, and less shaken by the passing troubles of the world. If you feel lost or empty sometimes, know that it's never too late to tend to your spirit. Start with one small thing, a song, a prayer, a walk, or even just a few minutes of silence. Let your spirit breathe. Feed it with whatever brings you calm, meaning, and a sense of wonder. In doing so, you'll find not just happiness, but a deep, abiding peace that can carry you through all the seasons of your life. 10. They practice forgiveness daily. Forgiveness is a word we often hear, but I never truly understood its weight until the later chapters of my life. When I was younger, it felt so easy to brush off little hurts and to believe time alone would mend the wounds left by harsh words, broken promises, or misunderstandings. Yet as the years rolled on, I realized how some old pains had quietly built up inside me, heavy as stones in my pocket, coloring my days with a sadness I couldn't always name. It's a bittersweet truth. The longer you live, the more chances there are for hurt to accumulate. We all carry stories, some told, some hidden, about friendships that faded, family quarrels that never found their peace, disappointments that made us doubt ourselves or others. Sometimes, the hardest person to forgive is the one staring back in the mirror, especially when we feel we've fallen short or made mistakes we can't take back. For a long while, I thought forgiveness was about letting someone off the hook, pretending the hurt never happened. But that's not it at all. I've learned forgiveness is an act of courage and self-care, a quiet decision to stop letting the pain of the past shape your present. It's not about excusing what was done or forgetting what you've been through. It's about deciding every day to loosen your grip on old anger, resentment, and regret, and to make a little more room for light and healing. There was a time when I held onto a disagreement with my sister for years, replaying it in my mind every time we spoke, letting it build a wall between us. One morning, while writing in my journal, I wrote, "I forgive you, and I forgive myself." At first, the words felt hollow, but as I repeated them in the quiet hours before dawn, something shifted. The burden grew lighter. It didn't erase the past, but it softened the edges and gave me room to breathe. In forgiving her, I permitted myself to let go, to reach out again, and to find joy in our relationship once more. Science tells us that practicing forgiveness can lower blood pressure, reduce stress, and improve our emotional well-being. But for me, the most important thing is that it opens the door to peace, a chance to lay down the heavy stones I've carried for so long. Some days, forgiveness comes easily. On other days, it's a decision I must make again and again, especially when the wounds are deep. But each small act of letting go is an act of freedom. If there's someone in your life, perhaps even yourself, that you're struggling to forgive, know that you don't have to do it all at once. Start with a simple intention each morning, to carry less anger, to be a little more gentle with yourself, and to remember that everyone is learning as they go. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, an act of bravery and grace that makes space for more love and laughter in your days. And isn't that what we all deserve in the years still ahead? 11. They laugh on purpose. There's an old saying that laughter is the best medicine, and I have found it to be true, especially as the years go by. But here's the secret that the happiest women I know have discovered. Laughter isn't just something that happens to you, like a lucky accident. It's something you can invite into your life every single day, no matter how gray the sky or heavy the news. You can choose to laugh on purpose, and in doing so, you choose joy. When I was younger, laughter seemed to come easily, a giggle over a silly joke at the dinner table, or the kind that left you breathless and wiping away happy tears with a friend. But as life got busier and more complicated, those moments of pure, unbridled laughter became rare. Loss, worry, and responsibility tend to steal the spotlight as we age. There were times when it felt almost inappropriate to laugh, as if happiness should be reserved for children and the very lucky. But then, one afternoon, after a particularly trying day, I caught a rerun of a favorite comedy show. I found myself laughing out loud, real, deep belly laughter that surprised me with its force. For those few moments, the burdens I carried felt lighter. The world seemed brighter, and I felt the spark of the girl I used to be. That was the moment I realized laughter isn't just a reaction. It's a habit you can nurture. So, I started making space for laughter in my daily life. Sometimes, it's as simple as calling a friend and trading silly stories or jokes. Other times, I watch old movies that I know will make me smile, or I read a book that tickles my funny bone. I've learned that it's perfectly fine to laugh at myself, too. Like when I put the milk in the cupboard or search for my glasses only to find them perched on my head. Those little moments remind me not to take myself too seriously. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. There's real science behind the magic of laughter. It releases endorphins, those wonderful chemicals that lift your mood and even ease physical pain. It relaxes your muscles, lowers stress hormones, and can even boost your immune system. But more than that, laughter connects us to each other. It's a language everyone understands, a bridge across generations and differences. Making laughter a daily ritual isn't about ignoring life's challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to look for light, even in the shadows. It's about permitting yourself to find joy, even when the world feels uncertain. The happiest women I know seek out laughter with intention, knowing it is just as nourishing as any good meal or restful night's sleep. So, let yourself laugh, loud and often. Seek out the things that delight you, share a funny story, or simply smile at your small mishaps. Laughter doesn't erase sorrow, but it softens its edges. It reminds you that life is still full of delight and that you, at any age, are worthy of joy. 12. They end their day with gratitude. There's a gentle ritual I've come to treasure, one that closes each day like a favorite book before sleep. I didn't always end my evenings with gratitude. In my younger years, bedtime was a blur, a last-minute scurry to lock the doors, turn off the lights, and crawl beneath the covers, mind worrying with tomorrow's worries. Even after the children left home, I often carried the day's frustrations into the night, letting them settle in beside me and color my dreams. But something shifted as I grew older and began seeking a softer, kinder ending to my days. It started with a simple idea. What if I focused, just for a few moments, on what had gone right? Some nights, all I could find was a hot cup of tea or a patch of afternoon sunlight across the living room floor. Other nights, the list was longer. A call from a friend, the taste of ripe peaches, the laughter of a grandchild on the phone. At first, it felt a bit awkward, like talking to myself. But as the weeks went by, gratitude became a gentle anchor, something I could reach for even on the hardest days. I started keeping a small notebook by my bed, jotting down 3 things, no matter how small, that made me feel thankful. Over time, these nightly notes became more than a habit. They became a lifeline. I found that even the simplest joys, when named and honored, could soften the ache of loneliness or the sting of regret. Science supports what my heart learned. Practicing gratitude can lower anxiety, improve sleep, and help us feel more content with what we have. But for me, it's less about research and more about how I feel. When I end my day by noticing the good, I drift off more peacefully. The challenges don't disappear, but they lose their grip. Gratitude gives my heart room to breathe, inviting hope and comfort to settle in for the night. I love the way gratitude invites us to slow down. Instead of rushing into restlessness, I pause and remember the warmth of a neighbor's wave or the comfort of my favorite blanket. I think of the bird song outside my window or the taste of a fresh tomato from my garden. On really tough days, I give thanks for simply making it through. There's always something to honor, some quiet beauty waiting to be seen. Ending the day with gratitude is a gift you give yourself. It's an act of gentle defiance against the darkness, a way of telling your mind, yes, there is still good here. So tonight, before you turn out the light, I invite you to find just one thing, no matter how small, that brought you comfort or made you smile. Let it fill your heart as you drift to sleep. With time, you'll find that gratitude doesn't just change your nights, it changes your days, too. You wake up softer, braver, and more ready to embrace whatever comes. And that, perhaps, is the greatest blessing of all. As I sit here, looking back on all these little habits woven through my days, I realize how much they have shaped the way I see the season of life. Growing older hasn't always been easy. There have been losses, changes, and days when it seemed happiness belonged to some distant past. But what I've discovered, sometimes through trial and error, is that joy isn't lost with youth. It's simply found in new, quieter places, waiting for us to notice. Every ritual, every mindful choice, every gentle laugh has been like planting a small seed. Some days those seeds bloom quickly. Other days, they take a little more care. But with patience, kindness, and a willingness to keep trying, I've found that happiness grows right alongside me. I hope, as you reflect on these 12 simple habits, you feel inspired to nurture a few of your own. Maybe you'll start with a morning ritual, a walk outside, or just a moment of gratitude at bedtime. Remember, you deserve days filled with meaning and gentle joy, no matter your age. If you feel moved, I'd love to hear which habit you're drawn to first, or perhaps a story of your own, because our journeys, though different, are richer when shared. Here's to the beauty still unfolding in your life, and to the peace and happiness that you are so worthy of every single day.